What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Logic Bomb Podcast, episode 35, and we got Lonnie, Lightning, the man, the myth, the legend. That isn't even that. Like for most people, that's a pretty good intro, but for Lonnie, I feel like that's a disappointing intro. Like you're more than just a legend. You're Lonnie Lightning. That's really all you can say. So
I am a scroll that you find in a temple, and that scroll just happens to come with a Tinder profile.
Okay. All right. Well, guys,
we'll put a Tinder in the description.
I mean, the show can only go up from there, right? I mean, with that kind of start. So we're going to get into a lot today. Obviously, Operation Neon Dawn is going to dominate the discussion today. A lot to talk about there with the new operator, as well as a lot of really significant balance changes that we're going to go over. And pretty much that's going to be the show. But I think we want to start out here with some news regarding a charity stream that all three of us participated in yesterday. Alex, what was that all about?
Yeah, so yesterday we did a charity stream for StackUp together with Mike Rodriguez and Martin Kubin, you two, and me. StackUp is for veterans and service members, US and allied. And we collected, if I remember correctly, $9,300 for them, which will go to, eventually when the whole COVID thing is over, flying people to gaming events, send crates of gaming stuff and nerd stuff to all sorts of hot zones and barracks around the world. Help with suicide prevention. Overall, awesome project. We had a couple of incentives in there, everything from Lonnie complimenting me, which hurt him a lot, and it was pure joy for me. But we did added one in kind of for fun, and I didn't actually think anyone was gonna jump on it. We promised a shout out on Logic Bomb for $1,000 and 3 people claimed that. So we want to personally thank those 3 especially. It is dtSniper from MapbanGG, it is Nullscanner, and it is Trouble & Co. Thank you so much. That is an insane amount of support. And to everyone else that supported, you're truly making a difference, and it matters a lot. We'll put the link in the description down below. We're not asking anything of anybody, but it's there if you want to donate, and it's going to stay live forever. So feel free, and thank you so much to those 3 specific.
Well, thanks for putting that on, Zoronic, and inviting me to participate in it. It was a really fun day. I mean, anybody who doesn't know, Mike is a UFC fighter, so we got to ask him some questions, and that was pretty interesting. Martin is actually the voice for Mozzie, so that's and quite a character. So. And then you got Lonnie, who was actually probably the most boring person. When Lonnie is your most boring person, you've got a crazy crew. No, I'm joking.
I want to know Martin. Like, I want to be best friends with that man. I urge everybody to go back on that VOD and watch it, because some of the things that he said you wouldn't expect a professional sound actor to say, and the best part is it's all in an Australian accent. So please go check it out.
Yeah. All right. So I guess let's get into Operation Neon Dawn. We have the new operator coming, Aruni. I think that's probably one of the least interesting parts. That sounds bad. Aruni seems cool, don't get me wrong, but there's so many huge balance changes, particularly a big nerf to Jaeger, a big nerf to Walmai. Ash lost stun grenades, and she got what'd she get? Claymore, and then she got an additional breaching round, so an additional one of her gadget rounds. Lots of changes like that. I guess just take us away, Lonnie. Operation Neon Dawn, you got to play it early. What are your thoughts?
Neon Dawn. Well, first off, like you said, let's start with Aruni. Obviously, she is now a 2 speed, 2 armor, if I'm not correct. And those lasers, I was really skeptical about the time where you throw a gadget or shoot through, or like whatever utility you do to put them down to when they come up. Like in my head before playing it, super underwhelming. But when I was playing it with, I believe it was, with you guys on the test server yesterday, the possibilities, man, the possibilities you can do to just shut down the attacking force with her alone, especially when Jaeger has a reset timer as well. And the Wumai, it just creates so much more strategy. I don't know if you guys agree with me, but there's going to be like I believe I saw you guys rushing out of sight. We'll talk about the new run out countdown timer, but putting it on the back of outside of a defending point, reinforcing it, getting close to it, and just denying all sorts of utility. Like the amount of things you can do with her is immeasurable. So really good operator, really strong. She has the Roni and the DMR. And I believe there'll be a lot of cool possibilities with her.
I think the original like fear was that it would add to the whole utility dump, but I don't think that's true. It's so easy to throw one flashbang, right? Or I mean, you can even throw a drone, or you can take the 30 damage, and the 30-second cooldown is substantial.
Mm-hmm.
You do not ever need like you can just wait with challenging that gate until you have the time to push in, right? So you don't need to push it too much with it. I do think when you start combining enough things, like you have 1 or 2 ADSs, you have the gates, then you gotta like make sure that you're actually ready when you start dumping utility. You can't have one operator throw a couple flashbangs and then wait for the rest of your team to get there and be ready, right? Like you plan for execute and then you do a countdown and you go. And if you do that, like if you actually play as a team, it's very easy to overcome. And the nerfs to all the other utility soak operators and catchers is probably going to make everything a little faster. She seems insanely fun to play, though. I will say, like,
fun.
once you like cut off we were playing that was during the charity stream where I had a setup in garage with one in garage door and clubhouse and one on the wall. We left the wall soft on purpose, and I could sit and like turn them on every time they were turned off. So if you win your gunfight, it's super favorable later on in the round because the next person has to waste something for it. But the fact that you can't throw C4 through them as defenders without sapping it, and I can't remember who it was. It was someone we played with later during the night.
Tried to throw it.
Yeah, through their echo drone straight into the gate. So you got to be careful with them, right? Because it still turns it off, even if it's a friendly one, I think.
Yeah.
But hilarious operator. I don't think she's too strong. Too early to say, but I do think there's going to be frustration about her because it's one of the few operators where you can run out of ways to deal with it, and that's my only fear. I don't think it's gonna it's not gonna be overpowered. It's probably not even gonna show on numbers or data or stat or anything. But there could be a scenario. We talked about that just as we started Flanked, where you could be in a situation where you have to go through that door, and you have no flashes, no drones, no nothing, and you have less than 30 HP, which means you lose, and there's nothing you can change about it. So I think people are gonna have a little bit of an issue with that, but that's the only thing I can see it being needing a little bit of a tweak.
And that's going to happen. And here's the thing: if it happens one time out of the 2,000 times that you played against an Aruni, that is what you're going to remember. And I'm guilty of that, just like everybody else. As soon as that happens to me, where I'm put in a situation where I'm helpless against it, I'm going to go on Twitter and complain. But that doesn't mean
insert clash tweet.
Right. That doesn't mean that it's actually broken. I mean, obviously, if that's happening a lot, that's broken. But once out of every so many times, it's not ideal. Certainly, it's not going to make it any easier to deal with that one time. But it doesn't necessarily mean it's broken, in my opinion. I echo many of the same things as you guys as far as Aruni. I think it's a really cool design. I love the aspect. I think the decision to make you have to shoot it in order to re-enable it after it's been disabled is a really good decision. I love the fact that attackers can do that as well as defenders. I love the fact that it has to be actively played. It's not just, it would have been really easy just to make that gadget a set it and forget it. And just, Aruni can go and do whatever she wants. Nobody has to actively do anything with it ever again. But I'm glad they made a decision not to do that. I think the loadout with Aruni is what's really going to keep her under control. You've got the Roni, good weapon, but no 1.5, which, I mean, still a very usable weapon. Don't get me wrong, but nothing. I wouldn't say it's a top tier weapon by any means. And then you've got the DMR. I don't know that we know how strong that is going to be on defense yet. I mean, if you compare it, I think one thing to look at as a comparable thing would be the TCSG on defense. That's probably the closest thing we have to it, right? But the TCSG,
Yeah, and the AA-12.
Yeah, okay. And do either of those have more magnification available than just the 1.5?
Yes,
They did it.
One of the AA-12 has a 2-point, I believe, on Maestro.
Okay.
I can't remember if it's just a 1.5
Well,
or if
take out
it's a
sights
2.5.
alone, you're not finding a DMR on defense with that recoil and that stability. Like holding down comparing to entering is a totally different ball game. Obviously, if you're DMR with Dokkaebi going into a sight 2v2, you have to be a little bit more on your focus, a little bit more with your shots. But if you're holding angles with a DMR I don't know about you guys, but that thing has hardly any recoil when you're using a hollow on it, or red dot, whatever you would like to. Compared to rushing into a side, I think it's going to be a lot stronger than people think. 100%.
You might be right. And I think that's really going to be the wild card for me whenever I look at Aruni as far as pick rate. How comfortable is the average player going to feel? If that weapon gets to a point where it's really able to be manipulated well by good players, then I think you could see Aruni's presence really go up. But hot take right now, I don't think we're going to see Aruni really make a splash in ranked this season. I could be wrong, though.
I think she's going to be played a lot just because of the Ronin. Because at least in higher elo, I feel like that's something that a lot of people really like, the super fast fire rate. Like, you might have to reload after every single kill, but it smacks.
But you get the kill. That's the important thing.
I think the Ronin is going to be the one you see the most. And then the gadget is fun and it's interactive. So I think that's going to push her up as well. It's like a less boring Castle. Like if Castle didn't have a shotgun now, there's no way I'd touch him. He just is too boring to play, right? With a shotgun now, Castle is fun again, seeing as he doesn't have impacts, which was kind of needed. But the fact that you can one-punch barricades, I will bet that there is no way that Aruni doesn't become the next rank monkey operator. You can one-punch barricades, you can one-punch castles as well. No one's going to scream at you because you didn't take a shotgun, because you can still make rotates. You can roam and open hatches with it, with your punch. I guess that's one of my few balancing concerns with her, is there should be a limit to the amount of punches you have. Even if it's a big one, like Sledge, 25 hits or something. Because if you can make 2 rotate holes in sight, you can open all the hatches for yourself, and you can make another rotate hole later on in the round. And for anyone that doesn't know, you can actually make a prone hole with 3 punches. So if you make a little pyramid, you can crawl through that, and it takes 2-3 seconds.
Yeah.
And you have a hole that you can crawl through.
Now the one punch
I think she's going
barricade
to see a lot of play.
The one punch barricade thing also though means that she can't do the double hit at the bottom of a barricade trick. I don't know how big. I'm not saying that's a big deal, because you think about if it's a barricaded door, she can hit it and run out, so that's not going to be a big deal. Obviously, in that situation, which you can't 2-hit a door anyway. But if it's a window where you have to mantle out, then you're not going to get that vault command, which means you're going to have to 1-hit it and then vault, and it won't be one fluid motion like it would be if you double hit it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but I don't think in terms of like reaction time, whether it takes half a second longer or not, I don't think it matters too much. I would feel better about being her and not having to prep it first, because if you had to prep it, you had to do it while there was no one around to hear you prep it.
Right.
And at that point, you could just shoot out a couple of the panels so you could still jump it. Instead of meleeing it, right? So I don't think that's going to play too big of a factor, to be honest.
All in all, though, you look at her, like you said, the next ranked monkey star. She is a terrifying operator. Yeah. Terrifying. No matter what way you look at it, there's still people. I mean, most people that I know play the Roni on Mozzie, right? Because it shreds, absolutely shreds. Minus the 1.5, yeah, that is it's not a big detrimental thing to it. But once again, you have your 3 lasers activate once you shoot them. You have the punching mechanic. You have 2 speed, 2 armor, and just somebody that can just fly at you, frag, run back to safety. I completely agree. I think people are going to be using her. And I think what you said about how it's not going to be such a problem with changing like a weird meta inside ranked, I think it's going to be more strategy, because if you're pushing to a place, say you're playing Clubhouse and you're trying to get in cash, You have that that laser that's there, and you throw a utility through it. Your team has to think, well, we have X amount of time to initiate something before it gets shot back open, which also makes the other team panic. So I think there might be a little more team play, which I'm hoping, quotations on team play when I say with ranked. But I think it's going to make a lot more possibilities happen, a lot more thinking before just like, hey, I'm going to shoot this down and then run through, because what is it, 30 damage? 30 damage is a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot to like lose, because that's
what
a
you want to
gunfight.
go into a gunfight with.
Not at all.
I mean, it's enough to throw the gunfight into somebody else's favor for sure. Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. It will. And I hope, I hope that she is played. I hope that players feel comfortable on her. I hope that she is played. Well, I guess we'll just have to see. I guess the question I would ask you, let's say her pick rate's 70%. If you encounter those lasers in 70% of the rounds that you attack, would you have a problem with that? Would you be okay with that?
I'd rather encounter them than an ADS.
Well, the ADS is no longer a problem. If you want to talk about that now.
Yeah. Well, here's a question for you. Let me throw that question at you this way. Would you rather deal with one of her lasers on a door or an LMI?
Definitely an LMI, because I can choose to just tank it. It doesn't affect my sensitivity anymore. I don't care. LMI for me is just a extra loud proximity mine.
I go to the bar a lot, so blurred vision's not much of a problem. I go flagging. So, I hit that and I'm like, hey, just another day in the office.
And I'm getting old. I have blurred
exactly.
vision anyway.
I look like that. That's how the game normally looks to us. So,
my
I look at it like a cap and trap.
I guess you're probably taking it that which would you rather have used upon you? My thought process though when asking that question was, the lasers I can deal with. In most situations, I'm going to be able to deal with it. The LMI, depending on whether there's soft floor, ceiling, or something, if an LMI is above the door and I drone it out, then a lot of times there's literally nothing that I can do about it, depending on how much time is left in the round and stuff like that. So that's kind of why I was asking that. I mean, I feel like it's realistic that 8 out of 10 times that you encounter one of those lasers, you will have something in your inventory to deal with the laser and disable it.
I mean, you should. Otherwise, you made a mistake as a player, right? The problem is going to be in solo queue, where everyone kind of goes on their own and they have their own little game plan. And little Jimmy goes down through dirt in Clubhouse, and he realizes there's a gate on the other side, and he has nothing to throw through. That's going to be meh, right? So he throws a drone through, and then he dies, and now his first drone is gone, his second drone is gone, and he's dead, and the gate's open or closed again. Then you got nothing out of it. It's like a resetting Capcan trap that also blocks utility. So it's a really strong utility once used in those specific scenarios. But I mean, you could have another operator instead of her that does a lot of good stuff as well, right?
Yep.
That's the whole thing. We're getting to this point now where you can't really argue that she's too strong, because you're going to pick something else on defense that is just as strong. You could have had a Valk, a Maestro, whatever, right?
Does that mean though that if we see, if along with that point, if you see that the defender meta is really stale as far as the operators being selected, if you've got only like 6 operators that have like a above average pick rate, and then everybody else is like way down here, does that mean there's a problem? Because like you said, there are so many different operators you can choose from that do cool things.
If people have fun, then I don't think it matters. I think the pick rate thing is so dangerous, because someone's gonna be above, right? Like no matter what, someone's gonna be up there, and we can have this thing where we keep chasing that everyone should be at the same like average delta on.
That's
on
never
pick
gonna
rate.
happen.
No, and also I don't know if that makes things more fun. Every now and then you want to be able to like take a niche pick, right? And you want to be able to surprise people, and not just always expect that every operator is in play. I think it's healthy that they're spread out, and you can go out and expect certain operators to be there, and then maybe one day someone finds a cool thing, and the whole thing changes. Like, that's what we kind of chase, I think.
100%, because does the meta really matter if it's fun? right? People complain about the 20-second meta, the whatever meta. But if this meta is creating a whole new gameplay where people are enjoying it no matter what operator they see, and those niche picks can come out, like all of a sudden an Oryx comes tanking through a wall and kills you and you have no idea he's there. But then again, you're still having fun with what you're playing with, and there's not a lot of complaining. I mean, does it really matter what operators are there if the complexity of the game is enjoyed by all, both ranked, pro, casual? So I don't think it matters, though. I think it's great.
As long as you have enough options to deal with what, I think that's the important thing when, like, defenders can bring some really crazy stuff, and as long as you're sure that on attack you have an option to deal with it, then I don't see a problem with any of the lineups. You can create these like fantasy setups where, well, you can never push this one place, but then you have other options, right? I think that's the good thing about Siege. There's always another take. There's always something you can do.
There's always
or
another
you can learn
hole.
to that. Or you can. God damn it, Lonnie. Or you
gotta throw in the wild cards every now and then.
There's always something you can add.
Let's move. Speaking of holes, let's move on to the 20-second meta. All right.
Oh, bless.
All right. 20-second meta. Lots of stuff coming with Operation Neon Dawn to have an effect on that. And really, I think when you look at the designer notes of Operation Neon Dawn, there is lots of mention of the 20-second meta initially, like directly. It's not like they're alluding to, hey, we nerfed Jaeger because we want to fix this. They are being very blunt and mentioning it a couple of different times in there, talking about, we're doing this for the 20-second meta. This is targeted at pros. We're doing this to relieve, frustration from attackers and open up the meta for them as far as operators they can bring. There's a part in there where they talk about how because of the 20-second meta, everybody was relying on Ashe and Zofia. So that's probably the number one theme from this patch. From a balancing perspective, is they did a lot of different things to try to reduce or change the 20-second meta. At the top of that list would be Jaeger. His ADS is working differently. I'm sure you guys are aware, but just real quick. So now if you have a Jaeger device on a window, one Jaeger ADS, if you throw something through the window, it will catch that like it always has. But then that Jaeger device, that ADS, is now disabled for 10 seconds?
10 seconds.
10 seconds. And then after
unless you pick it up and replace.
Okay, yeah, unless you juggle it. And after that 10 seconds, it comes back up, and that has infinite number of charges. No longer is it limited to the 3. But no matter how you look at it, it's a nerf. I don't think juggling is going to be realistic in a lot of situations. It will exist in some, but I think this is overall a pretty significant nerf to Jaeger. Walmai also got nerfed. He loses 1 total magnet that he could potentially have per round. You see a lot of operators lost deployable shield, as far as like Walmai lost his. They ended up giving it back to Echo. Echo's drone got nerfed. It's no longer invisible. So all that stuff, addressing the 20-second meta. Thoughts?
I think they are halfway there. Mm-hmm. If we have to first agree that there is a 20-second meta and that it is an issue. I'm not sure. I think it's an issue. It's not fun.
Oh boy.
No.
Yeah, but
no. I kind of agree with you. I said, and I just real quick, I think that I wish the 20-second meta would have been called the utility imbalance meta, or maybe even the bulletproof gadget meta. And I think it would have been more appropriately named than the 20-second meta, because the 20-second meta may have existed in Pro League, but in ranked, I've never felt the 20-second meta personally.
No, but I think so. When we look at rank and meta, the only thing that ever really happens there is that some operators have higher pick rate than other. Unless we go to like the highest elo in ranked, and we look at like the top people that play in 5 stacks all the time, every map is so different in terms of like what people do to justify their setups or strats, or if there even is any, or if you're just running around for frags. But for comp, a lot of rounds go down to the execute coming at 20 seconds. The question is that a decision or is it something they're forced to? I don't believe that it's a forced thing where they have no other options. I think that's because they choose to clear things in a very methodical way and make sure that they have enough to go for the execute at these times. Because we see rushes every now and then that work. right? We also see aggressive plays. We sometimes see where the defenders are maybe getting a little too cocky, and they lose a couple people early on, and all this utility doesn't really matter. There's been very little change from teams in terms of going like a completely different approach. There's been some we've seen, but like a cafe top floor is a good example where you have the whole setup with piano and all the shields and all this stuff. We very rarely see a cocktail take, right? So all the defender utility is forced in one direction, and we almost never see attackers going from the other. Maybe it's not as strong, maybe, but I think players accepted the meta a little too quickly, and a lot of teams just follow whichever thing is there, and then some make the meta. And it's an easy one to be upset about because it's the same with Aruni Gate. Every time you lose to a guy behind a shield, that's what you remember, right? You couldn't remove it. But it's if you concede that thing and you just say that it's all about the shields and that's the only reason that everything is bad, and I think it's too easy of a take. But I think it's good that they do what they do, because overall, like a year from now, I think those changes are still going to be nice, and they're going to add some complexity to the game and options. And by all means, that's a win. I don't know actually statistically if the defender win rate is that much higher now than it has been at other points. I don't believe so. It might be a bit more stale to watch, but I'd say I probably disliked the Lion meta more than this. So, eh.
Well, looking into it, do you really think the 20-second meta? I mean, I think professionals made the 20-second meta. Like, to put it in. Not necessarily towards a bad thing, though. You know, like maybe that was discussed between a lot of teams, not obviously all together, but to a point. Like, I know you guys watch a ton of Pro League, and you know that a lot of that utility is burned in the last 50 seconds of the round, give or take. And that next 20, 30 seconds, whatever it may be, is figuring out what you want to do and being the next 20 seconds after that is comfortable about making that take, making that retake, whatever it may be. Like, everything's done. We all know what's going on. Will that put pressure on them if we make it a 20-second meta? Will it make them like fumble the ball a little bit? Will it make us go a little bit more aggressive? I think necessarily in the coming seasons, from what I've seen or previously, is that was most comfortable for the pros, and that's what made it. I mean, mind you, Jaeger, and I love the nerf. I think that's going to create a whole bunch of things, same with Womai, but I think it was created out of aspects of, you know, a lion in its environment. You know, it did what it did, and they were comfortable with it. That's why every pro went to the 20-second meta, but that's why a lot of people also complain about it, is because that's not what they want to see, but necessarily what gets the game done, you know?
Well, the thing that scares me is we don't have to go that far back to find some tweets where people said, competitive is just about fragging now. It's just guns. But there's no strategy, no nothing. And it swapped like 180, right? It's way too much utility. There's no fighting anymore. There is a very, very, very thin line somewhere in between there where we can have a meta and people are going to be happy.
It was Goyo.
That's
the line for me. Right now. It was as soon as Goyo came out, and even after they nerfed him, the conversation never went away. But as soon as they let Goyo out, the conversation just became about how much utility there is. And
but think about if Ash had 3 charges when Goyo came out, right? Like, then they nullify each other to some extent. And there's also, like, this is the problem with every one of these conversations, is that everyone expects that you have to remove all 3 Goyo shields. You don't.
Right.
Most of the time, you have to remove 1 or 2. Rarely all 3. And I don't know about you guys, but for me, if I watch competitive, what makes a game exciting is when I see someone break the norm, right? Like there's an overall strategy that everyone's been running. This is the strongest thing, the flavor of the month, and a team comes into a major or a tournament, whatever it might be, a CL final, and just say, you know what, we got some new stuff. Like, that's what makes a really good game. If, like, Ubi has to be careful that they don't pander too much to the feedback on that and change it too much for the comp scene. I don't think they do, because Mello was on Twitter explaining some things, and he had a response to, I think it was to Parker, about the whole everything balanced for the top tier is automatically balanced for the lower tier. I get what Parker means, or Intera. Like, I understand the idea that if it's balanced up here, it's still balanced down here, but it might not work. Like, they might not be capable of it, or it might not be fun. It might break. It might be too strong or too weak down there. And that's just as important as it being balanced at the higher tier. And I think comp players are better than anyone else at beating things that are unbalanced. Like, they are capable of finding ways around stuff that us normal human beings couldn't do. So I like to see them work on that. Like, give them the struggle, and then they have to figure it out. That's what makes me excited when I watch.
Well, my whole thing with the 20-second meta is, all right. So if you're an attacking team, and if you're a professional attacking team, and you get map control, and you have a nomad, and you've got all your flanks air jabbed off, and there's a minute 30 seconds left in the round, you're gonna take the next minute and 10 seconds to get all the information you can and you have your drones, you have to stack the deck and get the board aligned exactly how you want it for your execution. That's only natural for that to happen. So I think that at the end of the day, like, you can do whatever you want to Jaeger, but if attackers are still getting map control that early and have an operator like Nomad, Gridlock that they can put on flank watch, as well as they have, a lot of different ways to get information later in the round, you're going to have a hard time. You're going to have a hard time forcing attackers to make that action go earlier, unless the defenders come together and decide it's no longer safe for me to sit in sight. If we sit in sight, we are going to die. And then I think what you'll see is attackers taking more risk earlier, or defenders taking more risk earlier in the round. And that could be a good thing. But the argument that these changes need to be made for the spectator, I think that is the last thing that we should be thinking about right now. I'm not saying that's not important, but for a spectator to pick up on a meta nuance like that, they're going to have to be a pretty experienced viewer and player of Siege. And to me, the player that we need to be focusing on for spectator numbers in Siege are like people who've never watched it before. You know what I mean? Like, I think if we're trying to grow the spectator numbers in Siege for Pro League, then we need to look in a completely different direction. Like, the meta can help, absolutely, don't get me wrong, but if you're making a tiered list of the things that are driving viewership, that's going to be very close to the bottom for me. There's so many other things that need done.
I think that's a completely different conversation, though, on from Pro League metas to numbers. I think that's night and day. That's just different.
I don't buy it that meta has anything to do with viewership. I just don't believe that's true. I know a lot of people say it, but I cannot see. I had a conversation with one about that where they were sure that they said it was boring to watch, and because it was boring to watch the meta now, that's why the viewership was down. The funny thing was that this happened while there was this bug on Twitch, so the EU major was showing like 5,000 viewers, but it was 26,000. So the argument kind of died there. Like the viewership was all right, to be honest. It started at a weird time, right, where NA couldn't watch. It was like 6 a.m. for NA or some stuff. And like, I think they make plenty of mistakes when it comes to that. I don't think the esports program is where it should have been, but I think stuff like having no LANs is probably hurting an esports scene more than anything.
100%.
Like, damn, it's tough to watch.
It feels so anticlimactic. It just feels like a bunch of teams playing each other, and then at the end of the season, all the same 4 go play each other again, and who cares?
Yeah, well, I mean, take the EU major. Just a couple of days ago, it took an hour and 30 minutes to play that EU major, right?
The final.
And yeah, the final. And had that been on LAN, there would have been crowds. It would have been cheering. We would have been hyped. Man, that was a fast game. Like there'd be some passion about it. At home, you're just sitting there going, "Oh, well, I plan to watch this for another hour." Like it's a disappointment.
My day's up.
Yeah,
it is 100%.
It shouldn't be, because you can't get yourself hyped up like you can with a crowd, right? Like it's just different. So that has to hurt it somehow. Like, I live and breathe Siege, and I didn't feel the same joy watching that as I would have if it was LAN, right? So it must be much worse for someone who just takes a couple of hours out of their day they're like, you know what, I'm gonna watch this EU thingy. And then boom, over. Had it been LAN, there would have been some filler stuff in between, hype building, they give over the trophy and we'd all celebrate. But here it's one quick webcam interview going, oh, so you won, how did it feel? It was good. Okay, good night.
I always want to bring back to that, though. I mean, think of SI 2020. Like, I've never been to, like, that was my first Rainbow Six Siege event, and probably, obviously, I was skeptical. I was new into Siege. I was like, it's a bunch of nerds playing video games at a LAN. How cool can it be? I walk up, it's freezing. I'm in a onesie, it's snowing. Crowds are flying flags and shouting. I was like, okay, this is pretty cool. I walk in, there's cosplayers, there's booths, there's autographs, there's all these things going on, and I didn't even see a game yet. Mind you, when that was going on, I don't know if you guys know the viewership for SI20, like when it was actually being huge, it was huge. And it was because the interaction of people getting hyped for that. They know they're going to an event, they know. And when people talk numbers and everything declining, oh, Siege is dead, whatever, you don't realize that a lot of the aspects of Siege comes from the community and the community involvement in these LANs. So, like, when I rolled up there, I don't know if you guys remember Ninjas in Pajamas versus SSG. I've never shouted for video games. I've never done it. Like you said, Alex, I was literally in my, like, looking at a screen. Oh, that's cool. They did good. But when it came down to that last few seconds in Bank, everybody, not one, the janitor in the back smoking a cigarette was on his feet, screaming as loud as he could. And you can't measure that in 5,000 whatever viewers on Twitch and say it's dying. You measure that, and we're in a bad situation of pandemic. When we pass this situation, it's going to go right back to it. And I think it's going to hit even harder because people haven't been going to LANs. People haven't been, interacting with people. I think when all this is over and people really focus on what Siege is, not just the game, but the environment, it's going to blow up like a rocket ship, and people are going to realize why they love Siege so much.
We're already seeing it a little. Well, I shouldn't say we're already seeing it, but here's what I'll say. With this patch, I'm seeing much more positivity in the last few days within the scene and everything than I have in months. And I think there's a lot going on there. I mean, let's be real here. Even for me, like, Siege excluded, my life feels much better now than it did 1 week ago due to exterior reasons. I mean, we're finding out good stuff as far as vaccines. The big black cloud of the election hanging over my head is over with, and I don't care who you're rooting for. Like, it's something that's kind of like stressful and gives you anxiety. You just want it to be over with, and it is over, and we're moving on. I feel a lot more positive about Siege as well as other things now than I did even a week ago, and I hope that trend continues. But I think that there's a part of the community that I've seen that is looking at this patch and saying this patch was made 100% for the pros, and they did nothing in here for me, the average player. What would you guys say to that?
Oh, I'm gonna get hated.
Yeah, bring it on, dude. Go for it.
Stop thinking you're so goddamn important that they made anything for you. They made everything for everybody. They didn't make it for the pros. They didn't make it for you. They made it for the overall community. It's a game made by people that like a game. They have a vision. Let them do that and then play it if you want to or go away. Like, this notion we all have with, oh, my feedback is so important, I hate it. Jeff is sitting there going, I want it this way. The other guy is sitting there going, I want it this way. None of them can agree. Like, you're not going to get everything. Be happy that you have some sort of a game that you at least enjoy 70% of that you can play. It could be worse, right? Like, we can't have this thing where everyone wants to change every aspect of the game to suit them. It's not going to happen. We got operator bans. We got map bans. Like, at some point, people are going to have to just chill a little bit and play the game. Because it seems like some people have enough time to complain equally as much about the game as they have to play it.
Or not play the game. That's another option too, Alec. And I know that that's not what we want to mention, obviously, but that is an option as well, to not play the game. And
actually, I think it's healthy. So
Absolutely.
you say you might not want to mention it, but I think it's good. If you don't like it right now, stop playing it and come back at some point and give it a try again.
Yes.
It is healthier for you, and it's better for the game because you're not going to have this pissy person sticking around that just says, oh, this operator, oh, this thing, oh, this thing. Like, it just spreads, right? It's the same with, like, I don't believe an angry tweet is going to change the game for the better. Put that exact same thing, but put a little bit of passion into it and say that I would like to see this change. I dislike it for these and these and these reasons, instead of going, oh my God, this is dumb. Like, imagine if you were getting feedback like that, you would not want to cooperate. That's just not how it works.
Right.
Like, hell, you probably don't read the comments that are angry or furious or ranty.
That's a black hole. Never
yeah,
read YouTube
like,
comments.
except for here, because actually our comments are pretty sick. I like them.
Yeah, I mean, I think Siege is absolutely a game that is healthy to take a break from time to time. It's so stressful and it's so, it's just tense, and that it's healthy to take a break from Siege.
You play better. I don't know about you guys. When I take a week off, like I'm about to play Assassin's Creed Valhalla for the next week. When I come back, I'm gonna be fragging. I'm gonna be flying around like a monkey gaining elo because I'm happy that I'm playing the game that I love to play. And I've taken such a small amount break off that it feels new and it feels fresh. Different things are going to be changed. Different play styles are going to be changed. Like, it's a brand new game, and I actually encourage people to take a break because it just makes the game that much better and that much more hyped.
Yeah, there's literally no harm in taking a break. The handful of outcomes that you can have, like one being maybe never come back. All right, fair enough. You found something you'd rather do. That's not a bad thing, right? No one is like forcing anyone or asking anyone to stay around if they don't like it. But maybe you take a break and you come back and you enjoy it even more than you did when you left.
It happens all the time.
I think it's more healthy to do that, and you have a bigger impact. At least in my little monkey brain, I would think that your word means more if you stop playing it when you don't like it than just scream into the void over and over and over again. Because the voices don't line up. When this is a big thing. I think we've mentioned this a few times. But someone comes in, like they leave a comment in a Twitch stream, on Twitter, on YouTube, and they say, "But everybody." Like, whenever you put everybody in front of whatever you're gonna say, I don't trust what you're saying. If you're referring to Twitter, that's like 2% of the player base, right?
Oh yeah.
Then you're referring to your friend group. Well, of course you guys agree. Like, of course you do. That otherwise you wouldn't have brought them in to back up the claim. But there are plenty of things where a lot of people have one opinion about something, and a lot of people have a completely different one. And the truth and the balance and all of that is probably somewhere in between, or far away from both of them. Who knows? But neither me, a pro, a silver, a guy who just started yesterday, are going to be the expert of how things should be run or balanced. We're players, and I think we need to understand that at some point, that like if you're not having fun, you've lost. That's it. Mm-hmm. Unless you do it for a living, then it doesn't matter if you have fun. Then it's a job, and then you take your job serious. That's it.
Let me ask you guys this: if you're the average player out there, there's so many balance changes in this patch, and talking about removing the 20-second meta and stuff like that. If you're the average player out there, how do you think that their rounds will look different? And we'll be specific. How do you think their defensive rounds will be different after the Jaeger Womai nerf? How is that going to play out in game to where we're going to notice it?
Well, you're thinking of the average player. When you think of the average player, you're thinking of either casual or ranked.
No, I'm thinking about the person. I'm let's say a gold rank, a person who plays ranked in gold, platinum, silver, in that area, but plays the game and wants to get better.
I think it's fun because most of the player base, and correct me if I'm wrong, I look at it. We're talking about the 20-second meta, but I don't know if you put whatever rank casual you played in, but you're seeing picks in the first 10 seconds. You're seeing picks in 30 seconds. Most people are going for gunfights and learning gunfights before they actually get into the huge strategic point of it. Yeah, you're gonna have golds, you're gonna have silvers that want to strat or whatever, but you're looking at it from a totally different aspect of what the average player wants. They want to get in. They want to use whatever cool mechanic they can. They want to frag. And if these little changes, these little tiny changes to them, whatever, I think it's going to be fun to them because they can do it differently, or they can frag more, they can do whatever. They want the action. They want the meat and potatoes. At least from my aspect of the average player when they're not thinking of it. Because I don't know about you, if I've ever been in a game where I say, hey, guys, let's do this. Whatever I'm done describing, Ash is already down blue killing 3 people with diffuser, dies, leaves, and then, well, this is the game now. So it's like you got to look at it from different aspects of what you want from the game, from different perspectives of what do you want it to be a fragging match? Do you want it to be strategy? Do you want it to take it a little slow? But everything changes game to game, at least for me.
I think as long as they keep it easy to enter, like the game should be easy for people to pick up and have an idea about what is the goal and what are my options. And then I think it should be infinitely difficult to master. I think like my ideal Siege, not that it matters or that it should be that way, is that you have an infinite amount of options of how you can approach stuff. And there's no way that you can ever reach your actual limit in terms of how good you can get. Once you get to not being able to get better with aim, you can get better on map knowledge or something else, gadget, whatever. And there, it should be possible for you to improve every single day and never ever hit a limit. But it should also be something that I can give to a friend who's just getting into video games and say, here, install this, play it for a couple of days, and then I should be able to play with them and still have fun. If they can do that, then they have the recipe. Right now, I think you made a video and mentioned this, Flank. I completely agree. The hardest thing and the worst thing about Siege is that it's really difficult for people to pick up. Yeah. Like, really, really difficult. If you haven't gotten a good amount of hours in FPS games before, having to both learn how to move around, aim and shoot, and then also use utility and destruction, like, you need a lot of gamer logic of, you know, red barrels go boom, that way of like problem solving to even have a chance in Siege. And whatever they can do to make it simpler, that's one argument for yellow ping. It might hurt some of the veteran players, but you know what? If it brings another couple million people in that otherwise wouldn't have, I think that's a good trade.
I want to talk about that a little bit because I think the video you're referring to was the video I made reacting to Shroud's comments on the game. Yes. And for anybody who didn't watch that, I mean, basically Shroud said that his problem with Siege is that the game's so sweaty and that it's just, that's all there is in Siege is just full-time sweat. There's no casual aspect of Siege at all. And I agreed with him to a certain degree and also took it a little bit further in that I think that the number one thing holding people back from trying this game is they look at it. Siege has a reputation for being very punishing, and it's 5 years old too. So if you're somebody who hasn't gotten into it yet, you feel like I'm behind, I'm not going to be able to catch up. I tried Dota 2 about maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago, and that's the exact feeling I had. As a, I would consider myself kind of a hardcore gamer. You know, with about 20, 30 hours into that game, I was just like, I still don't really have any idea what is going on. Like, I really don't understand what I'm supposed to be doing. And I think a couple problems that I did wrong there, but I would love for them to focus on, and I think that they are focusing on that. I think that's part of their focus on trying to enhance the spectator experience and I don't mean spectator in like Pro League. I mean, when you die, what happens? And they're trying to improve that aspect of the game. I don't know. I think the right way to go, the way that I wish they would go, is I would like to see them look at another game mode in Siege that is designed to be played faster. And I don't mean faster from an artistic standpoint. I don't mean faster from an Ash Rush standpoint. I mean, like, the rounds are 2 minutes long. The prep phase gets cut in half and is maybe, 20, 25 seconds long at the max. Maybe you don't pick your operator every single round. Maybe you pick it every half. Maybe you pick it every 2 rounds. I don't know. Stuff like that. Because whenever I jump into Valorant, whenever I jump into Rogue Company, whenever I jump into CSGO, one of the things that I miss about those games when I come back to Siege is how the rounds add up to something important, but each round is another chance to make a cool play. And it feels almost like you can sandlot a little bit, like, hey, let's try this round, because it's the first, in Valorant, it's the first to 13 rounds. Whereas in Siege, if you go 4-0, that's 4 rounds done, And so that makes every round in Siege seem really important and really stressful. Whereas if you could shorten that time, play more rounds, and get more of that sandlot action, like, hey, let's try a cocktail take instead of trying to come through piano like we do every other time. You have more of those throwaway rounds. I don't know how they would do that. It would take a lot of, maybe it wouldn't work, period. But that's the direction for me that would really bring people in, because one, you're still playing Siege. You're still using operators that have gadgets that can open hard walls and stuff like that. But you're doing it in a way that isn't as punishing with as much downtime.
All right. Well, you made a tweet about that. The Sugar Rush event, which I don't know if you guys want to talk about that.
Sure.
This gave us something that we've never seen before, is a team deathmatch. Now, mind you, there were some things that there was a lot of problems spawn. Everything that when a team deathmatch comes out, you have, I like to call it the Call of Duty effect. That you figure out spawn points, you shoot after, whatever. But take all those things that you complain about and just look at it for what it was. When I first saw it, I played it for a good 6 hours. I was just warming up. I was fragging people. I was having a good time. That, in my mind, that's the casual aspect that we need right now, or something of that matter, to give you, this is the game. These are the guns. These are the, obviously not the Sugar Rush to an extent where it's like, hey, you get some flashbangs or whatever it may be, but, still give them the utility, still give them all these fun things, and they can learn it a little bit. And then when they want to jump into a different, game mode like that, let them. But we need something more. I think that's great. Even the events they come out for holiday is the casual events I look forward to getting people back in Siege. Just take away the holiday aspect and implement them. I know that's a lot easier said than done. But I think those casual modes or those fun modes will bring people in if done correctly.
Yeah, they might. I think, like, I noticed the problem with when I play is that, well, I mean, there's plenty of problems when I play, but one of them is something like Sugar Hunt. It was insanely fun, and I want more of those casual game modes. But then I realize every single time I log into play ranked. Like, I actually want to play the sweaty game, right? Even if I have other options. So, like, I think I'm trying to convince myself that I would enjoy having more casual stuff and more options, more game modes. And this is by no means something that I think a lot of people share, but when I launch the game, I'm getting ready to play ranked. I'm getting ready for the Siege experience, the unforgiving, get smacked every time you make a mistake and sit there and regret everything you just did, and then try again. Like, that's why I loaded up. And I kind of had the same in every other game that has a competitive aspect to it. I know that in CS, a lot of people will enjoy surfing or playing some of the fun game modes. But what I did and what the people I played with did was you log in, you warm up for like half an hour, and then you play the sweatiest games that you can. And then you call the other people sweaty and you're angry that they're trying just as hard as you are. And then and then you stop. And then you do it again. Because at the end of the day, that's what we actually want. That's why we stuck around. It's because there is something about that form of gaming where it's super brutal and unforgiving and kind of hardcore. Every little mistake punishes you massively, which means when you do something, like a 4K in Siege feels so much better than an ace in CS. So much better. Like, those little, especially if you can like outplay people with, a couple good shots and then maybe some gadget usage, or the hype you get around that. And especially because that one round means so much. If we played first to 12 in Siege, first off, that would be a long game.
Yes.
But
could you imagine wasting that time? Like, just to play 12 rounds,
right? Like, getting that ace that one round wouldn't be that cool. And I really enjoyed Sweet Hunt, but I didn't play it nearly as much as I thought I was gonna do. I never opened it and thought, you know what, I'm gonna go play this. It was feeling bad that I didn't play it. And it's weird because I had a lot of fun when I did it. Like, I truly enjoy the game mode. But Siege, ranked or unranked. The elo doesn't matter. That's not the important thing. It is the 5v5 experience working together. That's what gets me to log on every day.
And I agree. And I think everybody who loves Siege has gotten to that point. And it's a steep hill to get to that point from beginner to
Yes.
from beginner to the point where you are addicted to Siege is a rough road. And what I'm suggesting, I want to provide a bridge. I want to provide a bridge or a bypass for learning how to play Siege in an environment where when you die, you sit for the next 3.5 minutes, and then you go into an operator selection screen for, what is that, 20 seconds? Is that how long the operator selection screen is? Something like that.
Too long.
And then another 40 seconds of prep phase, and then you get into the round, and then if you don't get spawn peaked, you probably have about a minute's worth of time where you are rappelling up the side of a building and trying to get in a window or something. You know what I mean? So like you take that time that new player gets on, he spends 2 hours playing Siege. How many gunfights did that person get into? How many cool interactions, period, did that person have compared to being spawn peaked, compared to being shot through soft walls and just completely obliterated? That's where I'm trying to find something we can insert into the game that's still Siege and that would help that player play in an environment that could shorten that curve, I guess you could say.
But that's what makes it beautiful.
Right.
Yes, exactly. Like,
That's
you're
what
right.
makes it
You're
great.
absolutely right, man.
Look at StarCraft or Escape from Tarkov. Like StarCraft, you load in and you get slammed within like 4 minutes if you're a new player. Like you'll get scouted out and literally killed by a couple of SCVs, right? Like, you're out of the game. Go try again. You learn how to beat the computer first. And then you jump into multiplayer. You're like, oh, I got this. I'm ready now. And then you get slammed in 7 minutes. And you're like, God damn. And you go and you go and you go. And like half a year down the line, if this is how you started gaming, half a year down the line, you probably start like carrying your own weight properly, right? But for the people that are into that experience is so needed. Same with Tarkov. It's so unforgiving. You lose everything. There's no help, right? Like, and combine that with a couple of bugs. I mean, we have that in Siege as well. Not only is the game hardcore and unforgiving, but sometimes you do actually get sieged, right? Where it's just not your fault. And damn, does that suck. But don't you think, like, I'm all for adding things that will make it easier and more fun for new people to get into it, but are they getting into Siege or are they getting into that thing over there?
If they played Sugar Fright, if Sugar Fright is your answer to try to provide something for those players, then I would answer no. They're not playing Siege when they're playing Sugar Fright. And I don't think that should be the goal of Deathmatch. Personally, that's why I think that the speed Siege formula makes so much more sense.
So you want the bridge from that of like Sugar Fright to give you or get you to the addictive part that we all love. Mind you, I've never hated a game so much more that when I log off, I cannot wait to go to bed to play it again. You know that video, I think it was from like 2005, of that mom canceling his son's World of Warcraft account, and he runs on his bed and he takes the remote and shoves it into himself and screams, running to the closet. You remember that one? When I die in Siege, I'm doing that. I am mad. I am
but that's
gross,
because
but guess
you're
what? Yeah, well, I think other people will agree. But after that, I run right back to my computer, put in my earbuds, and be like, all right, guys, I'm going Maestro this time. I'm going to hang out on rafters. Like, and I'm excited. I'm ready to go. But I know I'm going to again. I know it's going to be a thing. But that's what I want people to like about it. Is like you said with Tarkov, I can't play Tarkov. I'm terrible at Tarkov. But man, is it fun. Man, losing all that stuff, or even killing, like, I get excited. I jump up in the air when I kill a computer, and it's a computer, and everybody knows, like, oh, whatever, Lonnie, like, whatever. But it's fun. And that adrenaline is what makes Siege so good, because when you get to that aspect, you're not putting down the game. You're addicted for life. Like, there's people that I've seen, like, I'm quitting Siege, and they're back a week later.
But
that's most of them, honestly.
Is that also, though, what's burning us out? Is it also, though, like, at the end of 5 years of logging onto this game and being super passionate about it, does it wear on you a little bit? I think that there are some players that would say yes to that, and I think I feel it from time to time. I honestly do. I mean,
yeah, but how much of that is the responsibility of the game and not the person, right?
You're absolutely right. Yeah, I mean, if you're not having fun playing a game, don't play the game. You're absolutely right. I think to go back to Shroud's comment though, is it possible though that we could add something into the game that provides a little more casual environment than what normal Siege is? And again, I think you have to take that. You have to dissect his comments in two different ways. Is he talking about Siege is too hardcore, that it's too sweaty, like it's too like good competitive, or is he just saying that like it's too sweaty in the way that when you die, even in casual, you sit for the next 3.5 minutes? Is that the hardcore aspect of it? I would argue the latter there, that the thing that's really hardcore about Siege is the destruction, the one-shot quick time to kill headshot, and the fact that when you die, there's no respawn, and that you sit for a long time. That's the hardest aspect.
But it comes from a guy who plays Valorant and CS a ton as well, right? Don't you? So if we're taking the Shrag comment, like I agree with him, but I also think like we have to remember that as a streamer, it's a difficult game to stream.
It absolutely is.
If you're getting railed, you have a lot of time to just sit there, and you aren't really playing. And if you need to do your job on the team, because like this is the misconception that a lot of people that don't play Siege have, is that when you die you have no value. You're almost as valuable, especially if you're the first dead and you can be on cans, you have massive value to your team, right? Like you can help win the round just as much from giving good intel as you could from actually playing. Just like Lonnie has nice reinforcements every now and then.
That will never die. You never make die. One. This is another thing. Like, oh, hey, yeah, come on the podcast. Where it's like, am I going to say another stupid thing that's going to be embedded into the Siege community, or am I going to die?
Another stupid one.
Yep. And now I got to say another stupid. Yep. Exactly. I've solidified it.
I think the issue is that we need to learn to enjoy the support phase. I mean, there should definitely be things done to make it more interactive, but I don't know what that could be. Like I have no idea how they could change it or improve it, but they can't remove it. That can't happen, because when you die, you need to be dead. Like respawn would not work, right? Maybe they can give you more tools or something, but I'm also like afraid, because whatever they could possibly choose to do there, I feel like the community would turn around and say, no, that's too strong. Right? Like any impact that would change the game, I feel like we're fighting, we're asking for things, and everything we get, we're fighting. And if you take CS is super unforgiving as well. If you die, you can't even, you can spectate the players, that's all. You have nothing else to do. And then you can say, well, it's not for that long. Well, maybe not in segments, like individual segments, but overall, like if you suck in CS and you die as the first one on your team every round, and you're holding A long and dust, and you just get clapped every single time, that is a pretty pretty shitty experience, right? And how do you can't just improve? Like you're gonna have to lose a lot, and maybe drop some ranks before you have a chance of working through it again. It's difficult to keep it competitive and then also make sure that everyone has a lovely time. Because there's going to be someone that's losing, and someone's going to lose more than others. And
honestly, here's the thing I've thought about too, that goes along with this argument from the other side. If I'm the king of Rainbow Six Siege, it has 65 million players, I think is what we heard the other day. It's been an overwhelming success, and it's a success for a reason. People are enjoying this game. Am I really going to go in and try and make any type of radical changes? I mean, wouldn't that be scary to do? At what point do you say, yes, our game is not for everybody, but clearly it is for a lot of people, and it is for a lot of people because of this, and we're not going to do anything to alter that formula.
What did they do with I don't know enough about this. What about Dota and League? How do people learn that? Because that's not a simple thing.
No.
So I've played League for 10 plus years. And the best way they do it is, and it's the craziest thing, is there's one map. And when you think about that, that's insanity. Imagine playing the same map every single time for the eternity. It's it. That's all you get. 5v5.
I know that about League and Dota. Like you play the same maps.
But how do you make that fun, or what radical changes you have? And the only radical changes that you see are seasonal, that they implement changes with different characters that come out. So I don't know if you know a whole lot about it, but they'll do dragon changes, they'll do baron changes, they'll tweak the League of Legends character to either nerf or whatever to up another character as they play around with it. And I think that's what makes it, because it's so.
No, but how do you learn it?
How do I learn it?
Yeah, not what they do. If you're a new player and you come in, what's your route for learning it? I understand there's one map, there's a million different characters.
Trial and error.
It takes a long time before you don't suck, right?
Oh, 100%. I sucked for 2+ years. Easy day. But that's what you have to have the mentality when you're going to learn a new game and you want to get better at the game. Failure is the biggest success you can have, because it pushes you to become better. If you don't fail at something, you're never going to get better. And when you do become better, you knew back then what you did wrong. But a lot of people don't look at things like that, or even games that way.
But I think we should look at League and Dota then, because clearly they are successful games, and they are doing a lot of things right. I'm sure that in their community there is plenty of moaning about things that 15-year-old Jimmy thinks that should definitely change, because otherwise the game's broken and horrible. They must have that as well. I know it exists in CS, it exists in Call of Duty and in Battlefield, and it has in every game I've ever played. But if they can make it with their barrier to entry, sure, the games are free, but they're damn complex.
See, I remember learning Dota. There was a ton of resources in there for new players. You could the amount of different tutorials and training scenarios that you can do in that game was actually insane. Did
you use them?
I did, but here's the mistake that I made with Dota, and I'm sure a lot of people do this with Siege. The mistake that I made with Dota was that I jumped right in with my friends who had been playing the game for 5-6 years, and just jumped in trying to play with them. And there's skill-based matchmaking. Even if you're not playing ranked, there's a matchmaking system. So I was playing against people that I had no business playing against, and the game just wasn't fun to me, because I could never feel like I made a difference. Even though I was learning the mechanics and stuff like that each game, I was never really doing anything where that made me feel good, because I was just getting stomped every game. So that was my mistake, though. That's not a mistake that the game, made. I did feel like there was a lot of resources, though, for new players in Dota to practice and learn how the mechanics work and stuff like that.
Yeah, I guess then the question is if how many people actually use them, and if they have a good impact. 'Cause I'm sure most of us skip the tutorial, right? If you play a single player game, we're quite quick to sometimes just, or you speed read it and you're like, yeah, I'll check that later. And then 10 hours in, I did it with Assassin's Creed Valhalla. I skipped some things and then I figure it out later, and I'm like, damn, maybe I should just left that, right? But that's kind of dumb that I just skip past that. And I definitely do that in a lot of games. And I was having a fight in Assassin's Creed Valhalla for probably half an hour, and one of the Valhalla devs or CMs or something was in chat and said, "You do realize you have armor and a shield you can put on, right?" It's like, oh, shit. So I just completely forgot to put it. I just completely forgot to put that on.
You didn't put clothes on your character.
No, because I
How do you skip so much of a tutorial that maybe I should put on some clothes?
Well, I had an axe. I had an axe,
Is that all you care about?
I didn't think I needed a helmet and all of this extra stuff. So I put that stuff on, and all of a sudden it was a lot easier. And I'm also an idiot, because I always put everything on the hardest difficulty, and then I'm not good enough to play at that level, but I really like the punishment. So I put everything on the hardest difficulty, and I forgot to put armor on. So I got pretty slammed, right? But I assume that there are plenty of people as dumb as me out there when they start playing. They'll jump into Siege, and they'll go I want to play that guy. He has a cool gun. And I think that's healthy. That's the fucking fun way to do it. You jump in, you play that thing, and you go, oh shit, it can do this, right? And you get surprised. You slowly unwrapping your Christmas present. It's much better. then having the whole thing laid out to you and explain every single segment of, oh, well, this character can do this and this and this and this and this, and is countered by this and this. Like, you got to learn it while playing. That's gonna stick better, right? Yeah. And especially the revelations that come to you like as you play, where you slowly realize, oh my god, I can do this.
Yeah.
And you feel like a genius because you just figured something out that's super cool, and everyone around you is going, yeah, we knew, but you still feel good.
Bullet holes.
Yeah.
Bullet holes was the biggest thing that I learned that I was like, this is monumental. And then you get called a rat for doing it. So it's like, well, that sucks.
Yeah. Take it.
I think that you're absolutely right, Zeronic. And the only thing that I would add on to that is like, I think that it's important to always guide new players into the direction that you were exactly talking about. Picking up an operator, jumping in the game, and having fun and learning how they work. If Siege could do that for new players and cut the amount of downtime, I think that would be a winning formula. You know what I mean? If they can cut the amount of, if a new player logs on for 2 hours, if they can figure out a way to make it, allow them to play Siege and get more of those really impactful interactions that happen in Siege to happen in those 2 hours more often, I think that would be the best case scenario. And I think that you would see this game be a lot more popular and accessible to a group of players.
You know what could be fun is if Newcomer had an option for veteran players to join in and be like a Zeus mod from like Arma where you can like oversee the whole thing and you can give a couple of tips and tricks here. It would be extremely difficult to, and probably logistically it's just not a thing you can do. You'd have to like vet people so you're sure they're not assholes, right?
Yeah.
And on the other hand, like, I don't know how many of the people in Newcomer that would end up just being a second account of some diamond player that needs his 5th or 11th account, right? And he's probably not that interested in hearing Random Joe's feedback on, you know what, you can actually open hatches with math, right? But for a new player, imagine like how valuable that would be. You're standing there going, what the hell do I do here? And someone can let you know, like in Tarkov, they're called Sherpas. Like they'll go into a raid with you and kind of guide you through and help you with some things, and they're vetted by Battlestate Games. Like it's not feasible in Siege. Siege too big. But if the community was more willing, because I know for a fact that a lot of them are, but if they were more like helpful with getting new players into the game and invested in bringing new people in, that is probably the biggest change that, or the easiest change to do, because it's very hard to imagine some sort of gameplay change that will do it for them.
Back to the patch. Did they nerf Echo too far?
Nah.
There's things I would tweak differently. I would think. I think I saw a few comments of like one big thing. Obviously, it's always visible, right? Which once again, that's the same thing with Valkyrie's battle. You know what I'm saying? You're gonna see him. You know, place you can do. But I saw a change. I don't know if you put it, but somebody put it on Twitter where it was like only have them visible when somebody is on them, which means you can place them up. They go invisible. You get on them. They turn on invisible. Is that a tweak I would like to see? I don't know, but we don't know yet. You know, people aren't playing around. Like you don't complain about something until you actually find a problem with it. So I think right now, like Alex said, I don't think it's too much of a problem. People just need to play with it.
I think it would be annoying. Like I get the idea of let them be visible when someone's on them, but imagine you're sitting there spamming between your two Echo Drones. Honestly, that's gonna make them easier to spot. I think people are missing something there. Like if you're swapping between them, if it's blinking or if it's just stationary up there.
True.
It is much easier to spot if it changes colors, right? Also, maybe Echo just needs to be played in a different way now. Maybe you hunt attackers with one of your Echo Drones and you use the other one for like. Maybe Echo is better that way. Who knows?
Yeah.
We've never tried it, right?
Exactly.
Like, I think we've seen Redeemer do it a little bit, where he was hunting attackers with an Echo Drone. And I think that was initially the intent. Like, I think that was what Echo was supposed to be. Someone that like drones around and finds the attackers and not this boring thing where there's just one on each site and Echo goes and hides and then he stops the diffuser and that's it. Like, it's the most anticlimactic way of playing Siege. And it doesn't bother me to get Echo drone. Like, if the other team runs Echo all the time, I'll bring an IQ and we'll deal with it. But you can see Valkyrie camps and you still bring IQ to find them, right? Like, even if they're on site, like, let's not pretend like people are instantly gonna always shoot the Echo drone and they're never gonna be able to do their job just because they're visible. Hell, we can't see half of the visible shit anyway. We step in more frost traps than anyone, right? Like,
yeah.
Yeah, I'm guilty of that. That's a cool way to think about it, though. Think about the opposite end. I mean, when you're attacking, you have somebody droning in, you know, you're getting ready, like, hey, you're pinging left side, you're going to go in and swing. Think of it the complete opposite direction. You go in, you're basically a walking Elamine, if you think that. Like, hey, we're going to go, like, say if you're watching Border, for example. If someone's coming through Passport, you go into Passport, he goes up, bam, hits it, you swing, he's dead. That could, once again, since we haven't played it, but that could make, I don't know, spectating, even seeing something like that, way more fun to look at. And way more exciting to see those counter plays happen from a play from
more
an attack
engaging way of playing Echo. Like, it's probably more fun to play that way, which is at the end of the day more important. And if it doesn't work, then people are just not going to play him as much.
I think I'm on the same page with you guys. The only thing I think might be needed is to make his drone quieter or maybe even silent. I would say quieter. His drone's pretty loud when it's driving around. And that's the first thing that came to mind for me was, okay, well, now that it's not invisible, what I would do as an Echo player is place it somewhere like on the ground, like kind of hidden, like, I don't know, like in a hiding spot. But the only problem with that is while it's there, if it's not on a ceiling, it's pretty loud. Like, it makes a good bit of noise there, that little sound. So I don't know that that's going to be practical either. So I think that's probably the first thing I would advise. If Echo becomes useless, make his drone quieter, and then you'd have people, hiding them, playing them more actively, and that could be a good thing.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind that. I think the chance of you actually picking it up in a real game with all the other audio stuff that's going on, I think if it's maybe just stationary there and not moving at all, then it's cool to make it silent. But as soon as it starts like moving around on the floor, it should have the same like audio volume as a normal attacker drone. Because especially with yellow ping, you should know when the chance of that happening is increasing. I feel like if you're an attacker and you hear the echo drone coming, you're like, okay, a fight's coming. But if you can't hear it and this fucking little like frisbee just comes gliding over the floor and then jumps up in the roof, slams you in the head and pisses off again, like that would be a bad experience. It'd just be annoying.
Yeah.
I'd
be mauling.
Coming.
I would be so upset.
Yeah, maybe it only makes noise when it moves. That's a good idea. Yeah. It only makes noise when it moves. That could be.
Yep. I'd be all right with that. But he has had plenty of time in the sun, Mr. Echo. Mm-hmm. There is nothing wrong with him taking a year to just chill. You're gonna have a little vacation, right? Like, my boy Blackbeard has had his glory days. He's fine where he is now.
99%
still
pick
played.
rate.
Yeah.
Who's also had their time in the sun? Valkyrie. And did you guys hear?
Here it comes.
Did you guys hear that they buffed her?
Here it comes.
They buffed her.
They gave her an extra cam, right?
No, she has impacts instead of the deployable shield. I don't disagree with them. She needed to lose deployable shield. Didn't matter in ranked, but in Pro League you would see a Valkyrie bring a deployable shield some. But they gave her impacts. They should have given her Barb, in my opinion. Give her Barb instead of the impacts. I personally feel like in ranked, you will almost never see a Valkyrie take a deployable shield over a nitro cell. But you might actually see some scenarios where Valks are bringing the impacts over the deployable shield or over the nitro cell. So,
yeah, but I think that's a good thing. I think if you choose between two strong things, that's good.
Yeah, but I mean, I feel like
she's not going to see for you.
If she's making rotates with the impacts, that's one thing. If she's running out of Consulate Garage while you're on console window repel, that's another thing. And yeah, that's what I'm a little bit worried about. You're going to see her used even more aggressively for runouts to people who are, outside of the map.
I don't believe that's going to be a thing. If you have a vigil that is wanting to run out on you, he's going to run out whether there's a cam or not. And if there is a Valkyrie, they're all going to run out anyway. It's ranked. Like, that's what we do. We played yesterday. Mr. Flanked himself was
let's
sitting
talk
on a hatch,
about that, you
spawn
little
peeking.
hypocrite. Coming from the man that slammed his head easy out. I hate that.
What I'm trying to get at.
You guys
is,
are getting
like,
it twisted.
We want to fight, right? Like the Valk running out, she would do it with a C4. Like if she thought she could get a kill, she would throw the C4 and then run out. The impact is the only thing it's gonna do is that maybe she has an easier time getting to the garage to do the run out or something, right? And honestly, I'd much rather have a 2-speed with an MPX run out on me than many of the other things that could be running out. I'm more afraid of the late round Valk C4 than I am of the impact nades. So I think overall you're gonna have a better experience if you play against a good Valk with impact nades, because she's probably gonna do a pretty good job at like protecting hatches or runouts or something. But you're not gonna step on a pre-placed blue pinged C4 that someone else called, where you just like you're walking down the kitchen hallway in Clubhouse, and just as you take your first step there, it goes boom and you're gone. There's too many ways that things can go south, and I think if you saw barbed wire, like, let's be real, no one's ever gonna use that. Then you might as well just have taken away the slot.
Well,
and you can't give her bulletproofs, and you can't give her proxy,
right?
Because that's too much.
It should have been barbed wire. I mean, just give her barbed wire. You know what I mean? Like, and you're right.
Then buff barbed wire.
Well, like you said, the utilization of the barbed wire, how often would you see that compared to the shield or compared to something else? I mean, impacts is really the only thing that you can really give her to make her still in a place.
Okay, from a perspective of now her kit, every aspect of her kit makes a little bit of sense. I agree. But if the point was, if you're looking at an operator that's overpicked too strong, and you're looking at making a change, and it's a change that actually would give the average player a better choice rather than a worse choice, that's all I'm mentioning. Let me talk about spawn peaks, all right?
Hold up. Yeah. Let's go back to Valk. You said if you're doing it for the average player, they didn't. This was for comp. This change was for comp.
Right. It was made for comp, but the effect...
So it should have no impact. It should have no impact on the average player.
Why shouldn't it?
No, I mean that should be the hope, right? Like if they want to take the shield away because the comp scene dislikes the shield. Like,
well, I mean, their attitude could be, we made this change for comp, and we're willing to live with what it does for the average player.
Sure, I mean, of course they're. I just don't think that there's no way impact nades are going to be busted on Valk.
No.
Why got it as well?
She's still going to bring the nitro cell 99% of the times, I would say.
And Wamaya's going to bring your impact nades instead now.
Right. Yeah.
Because he lost the shield as well.
Okay. So yes, I do spawn peak. I have a confession. I do have spawn peak. I do spawn peak. Now, so here's the deal. Spawn peaks are part of Rainbow Six Siege. The only thing I'm saying is that they don't. Should they look at ways to reduce the spawn peak interactions rather than enhance them, or increase those interactions? If it was me, if I'm king for a day, I would look at ways to reduce the amount of interactions that take place in the first 30 seconds of the round from inside the map through a window to an attacker, and try to replace and move those interactions inside of the map and at a later point in the round.
To what extent?
What's that?
To what extent?
Exactly. I would look at ways to do that without making Siege not Siege, and without compressing the skill gap. That's That's the thing. That's the $1 million question. My thing is that does a defender looking out of a barricaded window towards an area where they know an attacker is likely to spawn, and that death taking place in the first 10 seconds of the round, and that the attacker is now not having a thermite and going through the rest of the round in a 4v5, if we got rid of that interaction and moved that gunfight to a later point of the round where your thermite got to deploy their gadget or had a better chance of getting inside the map, I don't know. I would like to see what that looks like.
I have a fix.
That's my
encourage everyone to spawn peek. Everyone should spawn peek as much as they possibly can for the next month. As much as you can possibly do it. Then you're going to realize you lose so many more spawn peeks to you peeking than you do to not knowing it or not doing it. And then maybe you're a little less likely to doing it because you're actually throwing for a team. Like it's worse for the defenders for you to peek. You are always better off.
Everybody. It's bad for everybody.
But
and you might say it's not bad from a winning percentage. I get what you're saying there, but I'm just saying from a playing the game. Like let's run through this round. It's a normal Rainbow Six Siege round. I'm on defense. Three of my teammates go out and spawn peek and get 2 kills. So now we're in a 5v3, and the attackers don't have any hard breach or a Thatcher. What do the next 2 minutes and 45 seconds look like for me? The teammate of the people who went and got...
You have some discipline, so you sit on site.
Oh, okay. So I sit for the next 2.5 minutes doing nothing.
Well, do you want to win or do you want to have fun?
Or I get antsy and I go run around like a chicken with my head cut off, and then we have more interactions from inside to outside the map.
How much should the game protect you from your inability to do what's right?
Right. I'm not arguing that. Okay. I'm not arguing that at all. I'm just saying that if I am king of Rainbow Six Siege, I would be very interested in any ideas brought to me about ways, including map design, that we could possibly limit those interactions and those rounds that went that way.
I like what Zyronic's saying. Encourage, as much as I hate spawn peeking, encourage everybody to do it. Because like I said with nice reinforcement, no one ever says, oh, well, you died doing a spawn peek. Nice try. So if that happens over and over,
effort.
Yeah, good effort. You try. Hey, 150. Yeah, it doesn't.
You're gonna lose all your friends because your Ashman keeps fucking spawning by himself and getting slapped in the first 4 seconds, and then he goes onto defense and tries to spawn pick everyone and still gets slapped.
And that's what's gonna make you rethink your strategy.
The problem with trying to solve it is that I am almost certain, at least every way that I can think of. I'm not smart enough to have the solution, but every way I can think of to try and limit spawn peaks will just change the place where they happen. I can't
Is the place
think of a single way
that they're changed to inside of the map?
No, because you have to go inside at some point.
Well, not necessarily. I mean, how radical do we want to get here? How radical do we want to get here? You know what I mean? Because there are. What if you designed a map that had an interior spawn?
Then you're a fool because it's Siege.
Depending on the rules that are in place and the design of it.
Okay, well let's put it like this. The inside and outside is arbitrary and doesn't matter. The idea of inside and outside has no real value. The defenders have to be locked to an area, so we'll call that area A, and we'll call the other area B. Defenders have to be in A and start there. They need time to do their thing without... Like, originally Blitz was supposed to fight in the prep phase. Can you imagine? Like that?
Right.
That'd be a little annoying. So you have A, and A has to be locked off until the round starts. Now, the only thing you need to do to spawn peek is you make it to the edge of A, and the prep phase ends. An attacker has to cross a path where A can see into B at some point. And no matter how you do it, no matter how many blocks or cover or whatever you do, I will personally sit down and dedicate like 3 hours to finding out where can I line up so someone is likely to cross there. And then I'll just shoot them at that point. It will never change. Your best option is right now where everything is favoring you as an attacker. You have magnified optics, you have better guns, you have drones. You can take a longer range fight where you have less fall-off damage on your weapons than the defenders have. then you can say, yeah, one-shot, headshot, sure. But the defender's head is inside of a window where you know that it's going to be at the bottom part in most cases, right? So you have much, much smaller area to look at, whereas the attacker can move behind the car in different ways, can lean out, go prone, all of this. You are so much more favored. The big problem, the way I see it, is that people are too impatient to take 2 seconds of every round that they play to check. Because almost everyone that dies to spawn peaks die while running away. They're dying full sprint. Almost every time when you lean out and you look at that window, you either kill the defender, you hit him, or you at least survive.
Well, okay. Do you think that the spawns on bank are appropriate?
Nope, but we've already talked about that. But that isn't about fixing the idea of spawn
Let's
peaks.
start there. What should be done to try to fix that?
You just put a half wall and
so
some
map
cars.
Map design.
Sure, but no one is arguing. No one has ever gone against that. But you are going into the extreme. You're trying to remove a thing that you can't.
I'm not trying to remove anything. I'm just looking at different ways.
Playing with the idea.
At different ways to play Siege, I guess is what I'm saying. So let me run through this scenario with you. And it's really hard to imagine this stuff. And I actually want to do a custom game and try this out. It's really hard to imagine all this stuff. But
you have to first understand that the interaction that you're asking for will never change. It will just happen at a shorter distance.
Okay, hear me out. Okay, so Villa right now, you have 3 spawn points as an attacker.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, 3 spawn points as an attacker. So in the beginning of a round, the defender can be anywhere inside of Villa, and the attackers are in one of 3 spots. Okay, so that's inherent advantage to defender. They know they have a lot more options on where they can be and where they can be peeking from. Okay, so what if on Villa, we can go real extreme here. What if on Villa, the defenders were playing Aviator and they weren't allowed to leave past red stairs? They could not cross the other side of the map, red stairs. Let's say that the basement on Villa is completely off limits to defenders, period. There's red walls that go up, don't allow defenders to see past that area at all. So in the prep phase, attackers could choose to spawn in bathroom, master bedroom, bathroom. Or they can still spawn anywhere outside. So now, once the round starts, what does that look like? You're right. A defender could be sitting at like Aviator door, holding an angle, waiting for somebody, an attacker who spawned in bathroom, to push that way eventually. But when you think about it, that attacker has a lot of options from there. At that point, when they all start out, that attacker could go down Astro stairs. That from that point, there's 2 sets of basement stairs that can go around and come around. They can go through the middle floor. So you're right. It's impossible to design a system where a defender has A and attacker is coming from B, to where the defender is not going to be able to hold an angle on somewhere that an attacker can come from. But if you give hundreds of options on where that attacker can be coming from at that time, then all of a sudden, as a defender,
operators on the map.
As a defender, how likely is it that you're going to hold that angle that you're referring to, and then an attacker is going to cross that?
Forget about it. Like you've forgotten so many things. Almost all the defender utility is obsolete. Your Valk cams can't go outside anymore.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's super radical.
You can't go.
It's super radical.
It's not radical. It's a different game.
Yes, it could be Speed Siege. It could be Speed Siege.
Sure.
But
you have
what
to,
other gadgets would be obsolete?
You can't have Mossy Pest set up in like normal entries. They have to all be close to site, which means
that's not obsolete.
Made a massive.
It's limiting them.
Sure, but okay. All gadgets that are normally placed over the map or spread out,
right,
are now limited to only being just around site. Which then you might as well just make the map small and still have the attackers spawn outside.
Well,
you would get the same outcome.
Okay, but
the idea of spawning inside, no. Like the idea of spawning inside will not work with the red walls. There are plenty of custom games, and for example, CS, where you have these kind of issues. Let's say you have a red wall, like a one-way gate at the bottom of basement. All you're gonna see is defenders are going to place one deployable shield, and they're going to sit and look at the line that crosses to that red wall.
What if there's 100 red walls? What if there's 100 points like that where an attacker could come from? So now you're picking...
they just phase through it?
Well,
do they just
no. I'm saying, okay, so what you're doing as a defender in that situation is you're looking at, this is one of the ways that an attacker could come. So I'm going to set this up here, and I'm going to wait to see if an attacker does come this way. What if the attacker could literally come 100 different ways?
Then you don't understand map design, because it has to come down to single points at some... like, some places you have to come down to single points. Right?
Yeah, the objective.
Good. Whoa. No. No. This cannot work. Everything in terms of map design will go against this. If the attackers can come from everywhere, and the only place you have a funnel is on the objective, the only thing you just did is you have 5 anchors, and that's it. Because all people need to do now is cover that one door. Because you need to remember that in this, you still have to fit in all your self-destruction. So now you can have attackers spawning random places inside, open up walls, and go through these one-way gates that the defenders can't even see through.
No. Attackers couldn't be able to pass the gates either. And once the round starts, the walls go away completely.
I'd love to see it.
It'd be interesting. I don't think you can't really honestly say what it would look like.
I think a lot of people that work map design can because like if there's a good talk on GDC about map design that basically kills that entire idea of like it has to be extremely specific, the rules within what can and can't happen, because if you can't read the map, then you just made Siege way more complex than it is, and that's probably more difficult. The idea that you have a massive advantage because you know where people spawn, I don't think it's true. Like, I can manage to get to site without getting spawn peeked. It's rare. It's so rare. Also, is Lonnie about to dance?
I think so.
Oh, this is horrible.
It's rare that you get spawn peeked. Is that what you're saying?
It happens maybe once a day.
Yeah. I don't.
So I think changing the game for my death once a day, it is easier to teach people to look for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, if I am king of Rainbow Six Siege and I've sold, or I have 65 million people playing my game, how interested am I at making radical changes to this game? Probably not. But I might be willing to entertain the idea of some type of sped up version of Siege. So if you've got attackers spawning inside, if you've got the option for attackers to spawn in master bathroom and they're attacking Aviator, could that round be 2 minutes long? If you give attackers the option to bypass that whole first awkward minute of Siege, where you spawn and you're looking at every single window and you're trying to come out of your spawn, and then you repel and you're watching for the Valkyrie run out over here, and then you make it to the roof, and now a minute's gone. Let's provide a way for attackers to bypass that point of Siege and then reduce the round down to 2 minutes and see what happens.
You'll get shot in the first door you see with a shotgun.
This is literally the immovable object versus the unstoppable force. You're not going to find a middle ground on there.
No, we're not. I'm not arguing. I'm not arguing.
We will, Lonnie. We need to test it just so I can prove that Flank is so wrong.
Listen, the odds are that I am extremely wrong. I'm literally theory crafting a new game mode in Siege that goes against everything that we've been doing for the last 5 years. Odds are I'm really, really wrong. But the stadium map is our first clue. Okay, the stadium map is a perfect clue. It had spawns on the roof. It had ways to go in underneath. I think that looking at map design is a huge key to making this game more accessible. Maybe that's the last thing that I'll say.
If that's the play, then yeah. I mean, I haven't talked to one person that didn't like Stadium. I love Stadium. I thought it was a great map. Obviously, that's an
Stadium
SI.
was awesome.
Yeah,
it was great.
But the weakest spawn was the roof, which is the fun thing. That was the one place where you got stuck. Like it literally goes against everything. There's a reason that when we had was it Jeremy that was talking about it, or was it Seb? I can't remember who talked about it, but like the roof proved a massive issue.
Yeah.
Like it's so difficult to get that to work. And sure, you can run
Especially-
under the map, but that's like Villa. You can run under the map.
The people who say that it should be roof only, that would be a nightmare. Okay, so now instead of the defenders knowing one of the 3 spots you could be, they know exactly where you are. Okay, and there's no way for them to build. Well, you're forced to go and rappel to enter the map. There's no way of entering the map without, I guess, maybe opening a hatch. But again, that's going unless they put 100 hatches on a roof, there's going to be a defender underneath of that hatch. You know, so yeah, the roof spawn can work in addition to lots of other options, but it can't just be a roof spawn.
There's definitely a good reason that the roof spawns were not implemented after they were shown on E3.
Yeah,
and the first time they gave it a try was at the Stadium. Stadium was lovely, and it was so fun with all the things they tried, but it still follows all the Siege stuff, except for the transparent windows. That was the only thing that was like special, right? Because roof spawn, that's like it's not. It didn't matter in the map, really. Because you could get to the same positions anyway, so it's just a 4th spawn position. I'm all for having 4 spawn positions. I think that would be a really good thing. And I don't think that my small little solution would be that every single map, no matter what the defender does, they should not be able to shoot anyone in spawn within 2 or 3 seconds. So they shouldn't be able to run out and do it. But once you move, then it's on you.
All right. Well, for theory crafting a little bit, why not eliminate spawns altogether and do a marker system? You have a circumference. You have a area around the map, red line where you can spawn, and you move on your mouse where you want to spawn. You click the spawn, you click it, and you spawn there. Totally random. 100% could be wherever you want to be. No one can look to. You could be anywhere, and you still attack from there. Completely take away spawns and spawn wherever you want outside the map, like. You know, because if you look at it, it's a complete circle for the most part.
yeah.
So
you can do that, but a few of the issues would be you're probably going to start having a lot of issues with clipping and people falling through the map, or people being able to spawn on elevated positions that they weren't supposed to. So if they can eliminate all of that, that's one thing. Then there's one where you could.
Being a hard problem though to eliminate clip. Like if you really
you'd be surprised.
put a team to it. Yeah, I don't know anything about technical programming. Don't get me wrong like that. But if
but
areas.
So what do you do if 2 people choose to spawn in the same place, right, or right next to each other?
Obviously the program would stop it. It would stop it.
Yeah, but what I'm trying to say is that it is way more difficult and technically demanding. Because if I start spawning, like what if I try to spawn on a tin roof? It has to like kick me down to base level, because otherwise maybe I can look straight through the bomb site. Now this idea of like having a marker system to spawn starts making it so we have to remove all of these sight lines, all of these windows, now the whole map has to change for the free spawn. I'm with you, like you can make segments on the map where you could say that over by Junkyard in Oregon, you can spawn close to the tower or close to the caravan or something like that. So you had a little more choice. But if you give the player more freedom, we will start seeing more weird ass abuse and glitches. And while I'm sure it's possible to fix, I would rather we have a good gaming experience and don't have to wait for that to be fixed, because there will be bugs, it will be broken, and it will take time to fix. And also, is it a problem? Like, is it actually a problem? Is this something that a lot of people have an issue with, or is it just a few that would like it?
The first gameplay thing that I'm thinking of with you, Lonnie, and this is an honest question. Like, let's say you're defending Kitchen on Coastline. Would you be comfortable with somebody at literally the drop of 0 having one person on kitchen window, one person on service door, and just unloading with an LMG?
There's a position where they'd have to bunker it. They'd have to completely border it off.
Right. Okay.
Like, with spawning, like you can't get close to the site, and then you can go from there.
Gotcha.
But like, what's out?
I mean, like a ring around the whole thing.
I kind of like that. I like what you're mentioning there. I do.
And even if we did where it was like multiple spawns, though, instead of having 3 or 4, add 10, add 15 of singular, like where you can avoid that problem. You can.
I think we're pretending that we're smarter than we are here, because like, think about it. Coastline, I'm spawning ruins, my dude. The second the round starts, and you're getting slammed. Like, I am peppering bullets in less than a second after spawning through pull window. You better be ready because you're not crossing the site, right? Like you have no chance.
Well,
Like,
but
I don't think we're thinking enough about this. There are people that are so much smarter than us that have done this.
There's situations where attackers literally have that exact experience that you're talking about.
No. Except for bank, no.
Well, okay, if you spawn ruins on coastline, when you come out of spawn, there's some things to worry about. Now you do have the choice of standing still, and if you stand still when you spawn, nobody's going to be able to hurt you for at least a little while. There's a run out down there that I think can get kind of close, but it's still going to take some time. But I mean, I don't know. Like, is it really that crazy to think that, okay, if I'm a defender, when that clock hits 0, there could be bullets coming through this window?
I think so, because I've seen all of us play, and I've seen all of us get surprised that we died this early to an attacker that was inside too quick. You don't want to speed that up. You are already surprised about people entering the building. There is nothing like worse than removing 5 seconds from that. How often are you actually ready when the round starts?
That's. I mean, you have no reason. You have no other than an Amaru. There's nothing other than an Amaru. There's no chance that you can get into sight in 10 seconds. You can die from shooting through windows.
Well, not into sight, but you know what I mean. When an Ash is walking down the stairs and you go, how are they in this quick? We all do that. We are so accustomed to the amount of time that we have. I'm sure we can speed it up. The reinforcements are getting sped up. There are a lot of things that are being done to help this. There's the 1 second run out timer instead. Most of the spawns are eventually getting fixed. It takes time, but they're working on it. Do you think on the newer maps do you often get spawn peaked? Do you often die to this?
No, I wouldn't say that I'm somebody who often gets spawn peaked.
Do you?
I don't know what the number is. I don't know what the number is, but what I will say is that I often play in rounds where somebody does get spawn peaked, or somebody dies trying to spawn peaked.
But I'm afraid that you would just change the conversation once the spawn peak is removed, and then you'll say that, well, now I don't like the first guy who dies. Like it's a shooter. People have to fucking get in a fight at some point.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like,
I think that's the thing is how important is that first minute of siege to you? How integral is that to that exists in every level of the game?
I mean, if you look at it from that standpoint of take away time, take away first kill, like how important is that first kill? Now I understand, like you have to take fights. Like if it was always meta where it's like you're going to die within that minute because that's when they're in, instead of like the wild card out there, like I'm going to spawn peek and die. I guess that just changed it up a little bit, right? Because like you always, and you're telling me you've never had that one cocky teammate that always spawns peaks, and in the back of your head, even though as your teammate's like, I wish this guy would just get beaten. I would just get annihilated. And when it happens, you're like, okay, I'm going to play a little better. You know, I guess it does add different scenarios. As much as I hate spawn peeking, it does put a little bit of randomness to it, which does make sense.
I don't hate spawn peeking.
I'm one of the people that
I'm good. Like I'll keep playing Siege. Like I'm good. I'm going to keep playing Siege. I don't hate spawn peeking. I'm just saying, like, that is, like, if you don't think that spawn peeking has driven a lot of players away from this game, you're fooling yourself. Like, that is, sure. That's why it became a meme. You. I had Kickstarter on the Pro and Potato, like, 3 years ago? And we were spawn peekers, because everybody was making fun of new players. That's all you hear from is, what about spawn peekers? Why can people spawn? It's a big deal to new players.
Yes, but it's also a big deal to every bad player in every game, whatever they die to. And they all, like, I think it's a massive mistake to change the game for the newer players instead of allowing them to learn it. It's no longer going to be the game that you like. Because they're going to have another thing. The second you remove that, it's another thing. We can cater to them to make it easier for them to learn. We can help them figure out that you're honestly a bot if you get spawn peeked all the time. Like, that's on you, man. Sit still, keep your drone alive, learn how to aim at a window. If you can't win the gunfight with an ACOG at a window in the start of the round when all the odds are favoring you, you're getting slammed the second you get to the door. Like, It's never been easier for you. You just gotta have a little bit of patience and then chill, and you're probably gonna be fine. At higher elo, it's the same thing. People keep spawn peeking, and I see really good people that get spawn peeked a lot. But it's just because when they log in, all they're thinking is gotta go, right? Like they just don't take a breath.
Well, and the fallacy, the argument that only bad players get spawn peeked, that is not true. I mean, it does happen less. If you're vigilant, it should happen significantly less to you. Absolutely. And the better players should be dying to spawn peek.
Oh
much
no,
less.
I don't think.
But
if
you're in a plat game, or I mean, maybe there is less spawn peeks than a bronze game, but not that much less. Like, people still die, and probably, I would say, at least 1 out of every 3 ranked rounds that I play, and somebody dies within the first 30 seconds.
Have you ever played a champion game?
No.
If you want to talk about how bad spawn peeking can get, you obviously have never played against Shock and his crew.
Right.
Good
So
luck getting in the building.
that
makes you better, though.
That first minute when you're playing against that, it's I'm in my spawn, I'm checking my windows. I don't, like, that's what is it possible that we could design a way for that to not exist on one map? And I think this is an awful example. Look, this is an awful example. Everybody's going to laugh at it because it was such a miserable failure. But Tower didn't do what I'm suggesting, but what it did do is it took something that we've never done in Siege that has to do with the way that you spawn into the game, and it changed it. And it didn't work. And it didn't work. But Towers has other flaws as well. That's one of them. That spawning system was not good. But there were other problems with Tower as well. But it didn't. I don't think you could look at Siege and say. I don't think you could look at Tower and say, because they introduced Tower and they tried this, it broke the game. It didn't. It resulted in maybe wasted resources because it was a map that didn't work, and you can make that whole argument. But it didn't break the game. There's no reason they shouldn't try stuff like that on individual designs or in new game modes. That's my argument.
I don't know. Mute Protocol was kind of fun. I mean, that made
I honestly like Tower. I like Tower, but I think it is unfair to even consider that to resemble the idea of like a ton of spawns or one-way gates or any of that. And also on Tower, you get spawn peeked a lot. You run over, you open the hatch, you wait until 56 seconds on the clock, you throw your first C4, and you get 2 people running down the hallway. You lean out in the window, and once they rappel in on the catwalk on the top, you can see the top of their head over the ledge. Then sure, we can say, well, you can design your way out of that. Yes, but then we're gonna find another way.
Yeah, I want to be clear here. I want to go on record and say I am in no way suggesting that we try to duplicate any aspect of Tower in any future map design, okay? I know people are going to quote me for saying, oh, Flank wants another Tower in the game. No, I don't. I don't necessarily want anything I'm saying here. But I think that if you're not thinking about this stuff when you're talking about new player accessibility, then you're not really having an honest conversation.
When did you start playing Siege, Lonnie? How long?
When I only been playing Siege, I'd say most like a year, 6.
How much did you struggle with when you came in with spawn peek? How bad was it? How quickly did you learn that you should get your shit together, not just run?
This is where my ego, and this goes for all of you. You guys play FPSs like almost your entire. I don't know. I've been playing like I started all the way down from Quake. Like if I keep getting spawn peeked, I'd say maybe 2 or 3 times. Maybe I should learn to look at a window or 2. Maybe I should not go that way. Maybe I should wait till, I know this is crappy to say, until my other teammates peek the window. It's learn, adapt, and do it. So, like, obviously, I'd say within, I don't know, even the first couple of matches of me learning that you could spawn peek, I can, like, all right, maybe I should do this. Like, if you're, like you said, I have not been playing as long as you guys, so I don't know states of the game. I have very little opinion on it. But at least for me, you get killed a few times with that. You're not doing that again. Right? If you see 3 of your friends die to rat poison, you're not going to eat the cheese. So it's like, these are the things that you can't do.
I don't really care. No offense, Lonnie, but if on this discussion, I care a lot more about the guy who isn't still playing Siege than Lonnie. Lonnie, the formula clearly worked on Lonnie. And what I want to know from Lonnie is, what caused that formula to click for you? Is spawn peeking something that you get great enjoyment out of? Is that one of the things that really made this game click for you? It could be. I'm not trying to answer that for you. Whose opinion I want to know on this subject is somebody who played the game for a week or 2 weeks and never played it again. Why? And it might not have anything to do with spawn peeking.
Every video game has that, though. Has something, that niche, that little tiny thing that could break the game for somebody. You're just using a completely different statistic for this game. I mean, if you look at, let's say, Valorant or whatever, always getting killed by the boot chick with the rocket launcher, like, oh, that's broken, or whatever, I shouldn't do this, or whatever game-breaking mechanic that you can see in the first guy, like, that's going to be everywhere. It's your job as a gamer not to let that happen continuously and let that ruin your fun. There's people that love spawn peeking that die that don't even care. Like, whatever, like, oh, I died, I'm going to try next time. That's their fun. And I hate I'm defending spawn peeking. I hate it. But, like, I hate it so much.
It's Siege.
It's Siege. That's what it is. And if you can't understand that within the first week of you dying to that, if you keep doing it, maybe Siege isn't for you.
I just see this as if I was playing CS and someone came and said, you know what, CS sucks because you have to, like, counter strafe and stand still when you shoot. I'd just laugh. Like, go play something else. Or if people said remove headshots in Siege.
That's not fair. Like, that's not fair compared to what I'm talking about.
I think the thing I have an issue with is that you lock down this one thing that at the end of the day, it's just one gunfight. What the hell?
Don't worry about it. I'm gonna keep talking.
It's just one gunfight that happens early on. It could be anything else in the game at any point, but it's a big thing in Siege. It has something to do about the idea that we spawn outside and we have to move in, and spawn peeking is going to be a thing. It is in every other game where you have people spawning at the same time. You have, like, dust 2 doors, right? With an AWP. You can't call it spawn peeking, but it's the same thing. It's people having this like idea that I'm just going to be quick and I can probably make it, and then someone is shooting, and then you die and it's not fun. But you can't remove every single barrier in a shooter where the idea is that you have to fight each other. I don't think we should hold everyone's hands, and I don't think we should give 2 fucks what someone who played for 5 minutes or 20 minutes that left wants to tell you. I think in almost everything, the person that spent like 10 minutes or a day or 2 days that says, I hate everything about this, or I don't want to play it, no one stopped just because of spawn peek. I don't believe that for a second. If they were that bad, they wouldn't win gunfights inside either. And I know that's hard to say, but I don't think their feedback should decide how the game that works well for the rest of us should be formed. It should be easy to start, sure. Remove instant spawn peaks. Everyone is with you. No one will defend instant spawn peaks. No one. There's reason it's removed in comp, or disallowed in comp. But the idea that I need to hold someone's hand from when they spawn to when they're at the building to just start the interaction the second they open the door will change nothing. They will have their fight at that door, and then that will be the spawn peak instead. Just be a shorter distance. You'll get spawn peak with a shotgun instead of a rifle.
Do you think that there's a difference between being in full sprint and, granted, this is the person's fault, you spawn, you full sprint, you die to a one-shot headshot from a barricade that you didn't even know existed? Do you think there's a difference between that interaction and the interaction of a thermite places down his thermite charge on a reinforced wall, opens it, sees the cool explosion, and then dies in a gunfight to a person who's on the other side?
What?
I'm confused.
Do you see a difference between those two interactions?
Huge difference.
Have nothing to do with each other.
Right there. Yeah.
But that's like saying if I see a difference between getting shot in the back of the head or the front of the head.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, me being unaware does not defend me.
I'm not basing that upon skill level or anything. What I'm saying is that if I'm designing a new game mode that is designed to shorten the learning curve and make the game more accessible, that I would definitely be looking at trying to increasing the interactions that I described with a thermite opening the wall and decreasing the amount of times that one of my new players that I'm introducing the game to is dead within the first 5 seconds to somebody that they never saw.
Yeah, maybe.
I understand. That's just devil's advocate there. Like, what's one straw that breaks the camel's back compared to another?
Yeah. No, I get it, but I think at some point we're gonna be hurting the new player more than we're helping because they have to learn the idea of destruction and siege. They have to learn that Lonnie is going to be prone with a bullet hole. Yeah, but what I'm trying to get at is you getting spawn peaked doesn't change that Lonnie is prone in CC looking for a bullet hole when you enter East Stairs. It's no different. The fight is no different. You got to the building and then you got one tap.
But you're assuming that because a person doesn't die to a spawn peak, it doesn't mean they're going to die to a one tap inside.
No, I'm saying that the same interaction is equally likely through the whole game.
No, it's not. No, it's not. I mean, the spawning system in Siege gives defender an inherent advantage and knowledge of where that player is going to be. Once from the second that round starts, for the rest of the round until you get to the final seconds, the possibilities on where an attacker can be go out and then come back in. So first second of the round, attackers can be in one of three spots.
Not the game I play.
Listen, first second of the round, attackers can be in one of three spots. Halfway through the round, where can attackers be? An infinite number of spots.
No.
I mean, I see where he's.
What do you mean?
Yeah.
I mean,
they can be anywhere, but don't get me wrong. You're choosing what battle to fight at this point. Do I fight? I understand where both of you guys are coming from, but it's do you want to die to a spawn peak if you're not good enough to die from a spawn peak? What he's saying is, if you don't die to that spawn peak, when you go inside, you're not going to have the map knowledge or the pressure to realize that when you go through that door, you're going to get bullet holed. So it's there is a problem with it, but what's causing to try to fix that problem when you do fix that problem to once again go through a door and then die instantly to something that has equally enough something that's just mind-numbingly stupid, right?
You can keep going through that road and there will be the same obstacle over and over and over again. No matter how many of them you remove, there will be another one just like it. That's the point. It's a game.
I'm not trying to give anybody free wins. I'm not trying to give anybody free wins or anything like that.
I'm not even saying that. I'm saying you're trying to find a solution for something that cannot be solved. Because it will happen the second you solve it. It is just moved a little step further.
What do you think I'm trying to find a solution for?
The not so fun thing of getting clapped out of spawn, so you actually get to play.
I'm trying to find a solution to people who viewed Rainbow Six Siege as a impossible game and don't give it a chance. That's where I'm starting. I'm trying to find a way to make Siege more accessible to more players. That's the problem.
Then I think it's the wrong focus.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. I think that's 100% fair.
I don't think difficulty of that is the way to start new players.
Yeah. I think spawn peaking means nothing to new players.
That's not true. That is not true.
Let me explain this first. If 5 random people that have never played Siege play against 5 random people that have never played Siege, not a single one of them is going to know any fucking thing about what they're doing. Yep. No one is going to spawn peak anyone. So spawn peaking isn't an issue if people are at the same level. Spawn peaking is an issue when I am playing against a guy who has played for 2 hours and I want to collect YouTube clips for fun. Then it's an issue because he's never going to make it to the start of the map. Or the inside of the map. That's an issue. But that's a player behavior issue, not a game issue. When I am playing against a person of my own skill, it is a favorable and fun interaction. It means that I don't have to run to the building and shoot. First off, it's foolish to start the round and think you're safe at any point. The round has started, now it's action. And I want the tension, right? I want to feel I don't want to feel like I can run all the way up to the building and I'm just safe. Then there's no point. Then I might as well just spawn by the building. And if we do that, now we have to change barricades, destructions, reinforced walls, how everything works. All maps have to. It's too much to take on to solve a small problem. New players are not going to get spawn peaked by new players. So if new players can be forced to play together, that's a good thing. That will solve a lot. I think that was what they tried to do with what's it called? The new game mode thing for new players, newcomer. But I think it failed because cheaters, smurfs, everything having to farm their way through there. I don't know how it is. I've played it once ever, and I think that was on test server. So I don't know how newcomer is, and I'd like to hear feedback from, or Ubisoft like be vocal about, is it working? What are people's experience with it? I think way more issues that make people leave is immense toxicity between players. More than anything, because it's such a technical game that if you don't know what you're doing, you will be ridiculed. If you put a thermite charge on a wall, everybody will laugh at you, right? That's not a fun thing if you're a new player. That doesn't make you want to go, oh yeah, I want to learn this. You have so many gadgets to learn that if you can't figure out where the windows are to learn how to deal with the spawn peak, there's no way you're going to remember all the gadgets and all the interactions. It is such a complex game. So many more people will quit to bullet holes, frost traps, Kapkan traps, blitz, right? Like all these things where it requires some sort of technical skill or at least time invested to understand how to deal with it. That will frustrate a lot of people. And the things that frustrate the people that play for a long time are probably some of the things that frustrate new players as well. The people that have played for a long time are just getting better at dealing with it and have kind of accepted the interactions. But imagine you're a new player and you see the Aruni gate and you don't know. You have to just walk through that. But at some point there's going to be some gamer logic that kicks in and says, okay, that did owie, don't do it again. And hopefully you remember that next round you play. That's the whole point of playing a competitive game, is that you have this, you're growing, right? Like you're learning consistently. If we remove that, then we're just playing Quake. And it's not about the spawn peaking specific. My point is that it needs to be difficult. Siege needs to be Siege. I'm all for us like wanting to update or change operators and things, but I am so afraid that people try to change the game into all the games they left. There are so many like different views and people trying to push and squeeze and do it their way. And we're gonna end up getting something that we don't want. 100%. We suck at knowing what we want. That's why like game designers' biggest job is to protect us from ourselves.
All right.
Yeah.
Anything you want to add there, Lonnie?
The main, once again, this is argued. I mean, there's probably devs talking about it right now. How do we fix this? This is an encumbering topic that everybody's trying to fix and try to figure out. But like we said, on both sides, like, yes, is there a problem with it that you see? Sometimes there is. Is there not a problem? What makes the game great? Spawn peaks or whatever it may be. Yes. Frustrating things that stop players from playing. Yes. But inherently, you're not going to solve those problems, because those problems are what makes the game, and why it encumbers the other, goes to other people. Why not it goes to, the casual crowd that just started playing. I don't know about you. I would rather get clapped through a spawn peak and learn from that than what Zyronic showed me on Skyscraper, making 4 breakable walls to drum, going through geisha, going through a window, popping my head and be like, it's safe, and getting beamed from that strategy, and then me just flipping my keyboard in rage. That's what I don't like. That's what but then again, I'll be like, all right, I'm not going to get shot through that window, and I'm not going to get beamed from that really cheesy spot. So it's just, you got to pick your battles on what you don't like compared to what you can fix and what you can learn as a player to not have that happen. So inherently, you just want to give players that thought process of, maybe I shouldn't look at that window, or maybe I should pre-fire that window. Maybe I should wait 5 seconds. It sucks. It does. But I guess the one logical thing that R6 players need to learn with R6 is patience. And ranked stars don't have patience, and they get mad when they get spawn peaked or whatever it may be. And that's how you fix the problem, is just methodically thinking about what you're going to do next. And if you're a new player and that happens over and over and over again, this isn't the game for you, and you probably shouldn't be playing video games.
Yeah, I mean, if Armor Squad and DC can do well, there are people out there that have patience.
Mm-hmm. But that's just me. I'm a learner. So, like, obviously, I picked up Siege relatively fast. I got good at Siege relatively fast because it's also up to the game that wants to get better to study on it. Podcasts such as Logic Bomb. You could be, yeah. subscribe. But like other game, looking up those gadgets, whatever it may be, if you like the game how it feels, then you're obviously going to look more into it, and that's on the gamer. You know, it's not on the devs to fix a problem that you're encountering that they can fix themselves inside the game within the first 5 seconds. You kind of see where I'm coming from?
Oh yeah. And I hate that this feels like an argument because it's really just an idea.
I think it's a healthy.
It's just an idea. You know what I mean? Like, and I know that I'm gonna get roasted for this. Like, I can already see that coming. But I don't care about those people. I haven't for a long time. But like, obviously, I love people. Obviously, I love Siege, and I'm gonna keep playing Siege, and that's what I said earlier. Like, this isn't for me, but to think that there isn't a real issue with Siege when it comes to accessibility for new players, I think that there is. I think that's the number one problem. If the reason that Siege doesn't exist in this capacity in, I don't know, 4 years, it's because that new players didn't feel like it was worth their time to get into Siege. I think that's the number one problem facing it.
You're preaching to the wrong crowd, because we both mentioned that in the start as well. Like that was legitimately what I just said as well, right? Like it's way too difficult to get into. Siege sucks to learn.
Yeah.
It is so, and it's riddled with bugs, way too many cheaters. It's fucking rough. But god damn it, it's a good game. I will say that it's not growing the amount that it is.
Once you have that like Siege moment, there is no game that will fulfill you to the point that Siege will. Absolutely.
But it wouldn't grow to where it is if they weren't doing it right.
Yes, they're absolutely doing something right.
They can do it better, 100%. But do we want to tinker with it and gamble that the whole thing falls?
Is introducing a new game mode posing that risk?
Maybe.
I don't think so. I think we just got too much on the tangent of a spawn peak for casual players instead of the whole, like, we talked more about how there is a problem for new players than creating a new game mode or whatever it may be. I think we all acknowledge the problem of it's hard. How can we make it easy for people to get into? But I don't think the spawn peaking should be in direct inherent of like spawn peaking being the problem, you know? So like, there needs to be a way we can look at devs and we need to look at the player base of how to make this easier, but we can't find that yet. But we can guarantee you the problem for new players is that stopping them is not Windows, you know?
Yeah.
I think in-game guides would help.
The devs are well aware, obviously. Right. I think that's the reason we haven't gotten... You realize Outback was the last new map we got, right? That was year 4, season 1?
I like Outback. Gonna put that in there.
So that's
I don't know if
2 years.
I don't know if it's quicker or, but is your argument that it takes longer to make Outback than it does to make
my argument is just that they realize that this game is really punishing on new players, and part of them trying to help that is to not introduce new maps but rework old maps so that there's not more new content to learn. You know what I mean? Like they're not adding to the map pool.
That's a different way. Yeah, that's a different way.
I never actually thought about that because I would assume that if you're a new player, it would mean less to you adding new maps, and that it would be harder for like veteran players to actually learn new maps.
But when you think about if I'm a new player going into ranked, and let's say map bans didn't exist, I might play the new map 1 out of every 9 or 10 matches. If you know,
sure. But then again, if you choose to go into competitive as a new player, you have I do not care about any feedback you could ever give. You decided to play with the big boys before you learned how to play. That's on you, man.
All right, let's wrap it up. We've been going 2 hours and 15 minutes. You guys go with wrapping it up here?
Damn, have we been going that long?
Have we? Yeah. Oh my god, yeah, it's.
Yeah.
All right, Lonnie, second time you've been on the show. Appreciate the hell out of you, brother.
Yeah, thanks for that. I always love it, man. I always love it.
We'll have your socials down below. Lonnie's obviously Twitch partner now and very entertaining streamer. He also has a YouTube channel, and we'll have your Twitch down there as well. I'm sorry, your Twitter down there as well. Thanks so much for joining us, man. I hope everybody has an excellent Operation Neon Dawn, and we'll see you guys on the next episode. Peace.
I hope you guys like the mullet now. This is in the front, party in the back.